Welcome to Life After Dogma, exploring what life looks like when we start paying attention to the ways our beliefs shape reality.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So, today's episode, we are going to cover some channeled material by Quan Yin. Brian read the book. I did not read the book, so I'm coming up from it like with a fresh perspective so I can ask questions as he's going through the material. But the part of the channeled material that he's going to focus on is answering the questions from Quan Yin's perspective of who are we and why are we here, which are like age-old rhetorical questions, but maybe we can add a little bit more to that than just posing the question. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian, and he can introduce us to what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so fundamental questions, maybe some of the most important questions. As far as the book goes, it is about Quan Yin, and I was not familiar with Quan Yin before I read it. So Quan Yin in the book is described as an ascended master, a highly evolved, non-physical guide, a being who is teaching humanity about consciousness, compassion, and that's how she describes herself in the book. Quan Yin is also a widely known figure in Eastern spirituality, known as the Bodhisattva of compassion in Buddhism, like a divine mother figure, associated with healing, a protector. She appears across China, Japan, Korea, and much of the East. So I wasn't familiar with her. I don't know if you'd ever heard of her.
No, of course, I have not.
Yeah.
And who's channeling her?
Daniel Scranton is channeling Quan Yin. He is a channeler I found on YouTube and have been following for a little while now. And they just published this book in the last few months. So it's him doing the channeling of Quan Yin. And then he has a co-creator. Her name is Allison. She's the one that has come up with the questions to ask. So she asks the questions to Daniel, who's channeling Quan Yin. Quan Yin answers, and then the book is basically in Q&A type format.
And Allison, I remember you were saying something about her background too. Was there?
I don't know a lot about her. She has an introduction in the book.
Oh, okay.
She was like in the tech industry in California. She's originally from China, I believe, but had spent most of her career in the tech industry, has retired now, is interested in spirituality and channeled material. So I think that's how she got connected to Daniel. And then I think it was her idea for the book that they've published together.
Nice. Okay, well, let's get into it, because I know you've got a lot of material you want to cover.
There is a lot here. Okay, so let's start with kind of the core theme on who we are, as described in the book by Quan Yin. And maybe we should put the disclaimer out there. All of this is material that is from the book, from Quan Yin's perspective. Take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. I think it's important to have a perspective where that's okay. Like maybe some things make sense to you and resonate, some things don't. I'm not getting too hung up on what the factual truth of the matter is. I read the book, the material resonated with me. As far as it goes for answering these types of questions, who we are, why we're here, I think it goes a long way. It really makes sense. And that's why I wanted to do an episode on it, because I think it's interesting. So that's what we're going to do.
Sounds good.
All right. So we are eternal souls, expressions of the one source consciousness. We're all fractals of it, part of it. And we came into this universe from source. So all of us are part of the source of the universe. Some people call that God. Quan Yin refers to it as source, or all that is, because it's like this universal mind that exists outside of the universe. So for me, I like to think of it as like consciousness, which is in all of us, our life force, is this connection to the source of all that is. We came into this universe by choice, and we chose this universe because it is one of polarity. And the purpose from the highest level is for source to understand itself through experiences. And the idea is that you best understand yourself through experience. So you have to have this polarity between like light and dark or positive and negative, to have to be able to appreciate the light. You have to have the dark. That's the gist from the highest level. Okay, so we came into this universe by choice, and then we came into what's described as the 13th dimension. I guess 13th dimension is source. We came into the 12th, which is the highest in this universe. And then we've progressively descended into denser dimensions to experience what we're experiencing now, which is physical reality. And the further we descend, the more that polarity or duality increases. So we've descended over the course of maybe billions of years. We planned this, like we plan to descend down into the physical reality that we're all in now in this third, fourth dimensional form. But the idea is that we're all going to ascend again. Like we're on this journey of we came into the universe, we're going to descend down to the lowest levels, lowest dimensions of it, and then ascend back up to source, bringing with us all these experiences so source can fully understand itself or experience itself.
So as we descended, it's not like we just kind of like slowly made our way through each one of these as a as source or some or as just like consciousness, but we embodied different things on our way down. Is that right?
It doesn't particularly describe it that way, although it does say that we come into these physical bodies, our consciousness or soul from higher dimensions into these bodies by choice. In higher dimensions, it doesn't get into the specifics of that, but basically, like, we are these higher dimensional beings that chose to lower our vibration down through the dimensions, and but over a very long period of time, like billions of years.
Yeah, but what were we doing over that long period of time as we were lowering into this dimension?
Experiencing, right? Like the idea is that creation, everything begins as love, and then it's seeking to know itself through experience. So you're having all of these experiences in different dimensions over the periods of time. It does say that there is lots of preparation for coming into the physical reality. And so partial answer to your question is a lot of it is spent like preparing for coming into the physical reality. Also, when you're in this dimensional space, you can come in and out of it, right? Like when people die, it says they go back to the seventh dimension and make a plan for their next iteration of coming back in. So it's not just this like linear process, but it's just, you've lived many lifetimes. What it talks about, and we'll get into next, is that almost all humans living on Earth right now are star seeds, meaning they have incarnated in different third, fourth, fifth dimensional forms, physical forms in the galaxy, but are part of other groups, non-human intelligences. So we've lived as these other beings in similar dimensional forms many, many lifetimes. We've lived on Earth many, many lifetimes. But the idea is that humanity collectively will start to ascend back up to higher dimensional.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So it's like a collective ascension now,
That is why
not
Quan
just
Yin,
individual consciousness ascension. I mean, it's that, but also collectively, everyone's gone down into the lower dimensions and is now coming back up.
for humanity collectively, yes.
Okay.
So, and then it describes the ascension as the raising of consciousness, transitioning Earth and all the life forms from a third and fourth dimension to the fifth dimension. So we'll still be in a physical form, but it will be a much less polarized
Okay.
version of humanity. And that's why Quan Yin is communicating with us now. That's why this message is coming through now. That's
Okay.
how it's described.
Yeah, I guess we always talk about like how the denseness, so it'll be less dense, which makes it just sound like when I think of density, I think of like walking through mud or something, or like it's just really hard. So it'll be kind of like less dense, so it'll be less resistance, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like consciousness level, but that is, you can see that in physical form today, right? Like humanity's consciousness has evolved since written history over the last 10 or 15,000 years. We can see how hard like the daily lives of people were back then compared to now, where many of us have lots of conveniences, lots of automation tools. We have the internet, like all these things that we've created to make our regular lives more easily. Every form that exists physically started as a thought. The more evolved like the consciousness level is, the more you're going to see the benefit in physical reality.
Got it.
Okay, so that's a little bit about the background of all of our souls that exist here in the universe. For us specifically, how we're incarnating in human form. But the name of the book is actually The Earth Experiment.
Oh, okay. The Earth Experiment. I don't know if you've ever actually told me the name of the book. Um,
What are your initial reactions to that?
I feel like it's just like something that I've kind of like we talk about or I've toyed with in my mind of like surely this is like some sort of experiment because yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like it. I like it. I have to think about that one a little longer.
Okay, so let me break it down on what is meant by the Earth Experiment, because it functions on a couple of different levels. Let's continue on with like this soul journey. So our souls chose Earth for the Earth Experiment specifically because Earth, this environment, offers a unique intensity of experiences and emotions. Emotions like a full spectrum of emotions, including the really dark ones like fear and despair. But we also have the capacity to experience really positive emotions. We just have this huge range, which apparently is rare in the universe. So that's the soul aspect of it, right? Okay. So from that standpoint, it was designed so humans would learn through their experiences of, separation from source, fear, this huge spectrum of contrast that we can experience here. And the purpose of that is to help us discover what we really want. And Quan Yin says what we really want is unity, peace. We want to feel that connection with source again. And so we've come into this super polarized environment, and that's what we will collectively choose eventually, is that we want to get back. We'll start to realize who we really are, why we're really here, and then we'll change what we want collectively. And that's when we'll go back up in the dimensional raising. So that's one aspect of the Earth Experiment. But then I'll get into how Earth was created next.
Yeah, so it seems like there's two parts. There's like the Earth itself as an experiment, and then our experience of the Earth as an experience, as an experiment as well. And it sounds like the the human experience on here is this, and I guess you might talk about it later, but like this whole forgetting as you go down into the dimensions and it gets denser, we've forgotten who we are, but that's on purpose so that we can have these very emotional experiences free from like from not knowing, like, and then we can also have the remembering. So it's like we descended down into these and slowly forgot who we were so that we could have this experience kind of separate from. And I feel like in a lot of religions it also talks about like we're separated from consciousness or from the Christ or that kind of thing. So right now we're separated consciously, like we don't know who we are, so that we can have this experience and have the experience of remembering.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we're getting back to. And Earth is relatively rare in the universe. There aren't a whole lot of places like this where you can feel completely separated from who you are and have no idea why you're here. Which is why these are such fundamental questions, because this is one of the few places where you can actually experience having no idea, like you're born and you have no idea, like who you are. You have no idea why you're here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to create your own meaning or find it for yourself. So that's kind of like the spiritual lens or the backdrop from a soul perspective. Part of the reason why it's a relatively rare place is because it was essentially manufactured. Earth as a planet existed, but some of the non-human races from neighboring star systems in our galaxy formed it, formed life on it, terraformed it billions of years ago. They came here, they wanted to experiment, and they brought life from their planets of all different kinds here, starting off with, basic building blocks. And then once things were set in motion, they did evolve naturally, over the course of billions of years. But the idea is that like nothing living was here. Then it was brought here and seeded by several different neighboring races of non-human intelligence or extraterrestrials or however you want to think about them. And that we did eventually evolve from that. But then it gets even stranger. But before we get to that, what's your thought on Earth being terraformed? And
No, I can see it. I mean, when I don't know what the scientific theory is now, but I know like over time, the hearing of like, oh, bits and pieces of like what created life on Earth came from a comet that hit the Earth, or like different minerals or different elements came to Earth from like impacts or this kinds of things. So those impacts could have been also like from, if they had to come from somewhere, so why wouldn't they come from?
right.
I mean, it seems to fit the story of what we are discovering on our own scientifically. It just has like a non-human intelligence element to it, which has not been added in because we've never met one and we don't know that part of the story. But yeah, it makes sense. So they kind of like dropped certain things on the Earth and then just kind of let it go, and it evolved naturally with the Earth because the Earth had whatever components it needed to for these things to thrive. So they put it there and let it go. Is that kind of right?
Well, yes. I mean, I think it was kind of like their garden that they created, but they also tended to it because they would come here and hang out. Like it was a place for them to come and experience like
it's like a galactic vacation spot.
Yeah, it's a vacation spot.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was like that for a really long time, especially before like the higher organized life forms started to evolve. Like it was very much kind of a playground of sorts for them to have different experiences and try different things and bring different things here and see what happened. So that's, yeah, I think they even call it like kind of a vacation spot. But over time, humans, hominids, did naturally evolve. And even though the earliest building blocks were seeded here, humans eventually evolved from all of this, or these hominids, and that takes us all the way to several 100,000 years ago.
When the hominids were here. So this is
Hominids have been around longer than that,
Okay.
but something significant happened about 300,000 years ago.
Okay.
That's when the civilization of Lemuria formed. And it sounds like it was a hominid race, let's just say early humans, that had evolved naturally on this planet. A group from the Lyran star system came here, introduced themselves to these early humans and then proceeded to genetically modify them, their DNA, with their own DNA. So they took human DNA and they took Lyran DNA, and the result was mutated humans or genetically modified humans. So that's when the first hybrid human was introduced, was around 300,000 years ago. So everything was going along pretty well without much intervention, at least genetically, in changing things up until then. And that is kind of when humans, went on a different trajectory than all the other hominids, and we are the result of that today.
Okay, so these Lyrans came, and I guess they were close enough in genetics to the hominids to where it could be
right, because they seeded they were one of the groups, like the Lyrans, the Pleiadians, Arcturians were among the civilizations that seeded life on planet Earth from the first place.
Okay, and this is just the first one that started to like manipulate with their own DNA. Okay.
Yep. I mean, since the beginning. I guess DNA from their civilization was brought here at the very beginning, or at least life was. I don't know all the details of that, but Lemuria, as a result, turned into this, harmonious 3D civilization where the Lyrans greatly accelerated human sentience using their genetic technology, splicing their DNA into the human DNA. But the Lyrans later destroyed the civilization, mainly to prevent misuse of that technology by other star seeds or non-human intelligences from other star systems.
Okay, so why would they do that if, as you ascend, like my thought of like when you're ascending the dimensions is that it sounds like they were afraid of something or like afraid of the consequences, or that's like a fear. And I would think that as you ascended through these dimensions, that you would no longer have fear. But this advanced civilization, it sounds like they destroyed it out of fear.
They were advanced, but they were also 3D.
Oh, so they're in the same dimension that we are.
That's right.
Okay.
They're just billions of years ahead of us in technology.
Okay, so it's more like a technological thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so I'm like now mentally splitting technology from spiritual dimensional ascension.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They're not necessarily tied together.
Right. Like we're trying to go to Mars, but we're still 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So they destroyed the civilization to prevent the misuse of this technology or this new sentient human, and they destroyed most of them, but they didn't survive all of them. And it says that some of the surviving, genetically modified humans made their way to other parts of the world, found other early humans that didn't have the modified DNA. They reproduced, and that's how that DNA kept spreading, throughout the Earth. It does say that the survivors of the Lemurian survivors carried that trauma that encoded fear of gods and separation into human DNA.
Oh, that was something that the Lyrans put into it? Was this fear of
the trauma of having their civilization destroyed?
Oh,
permanently
gotcha.
had a mark on their DNA that they carried with them.
Oh, I love that, because like right now there's a lot of talk just in lots of discussions about in various groups about how trauma is passed on.
It is
generationally through like our DNA and through very real ways, not just
cataclysmic events
emotionally.
and things like that. Yeah, real situations. So that destruction became humanity's first imprint of this betrayal of the God, lowercase g gods, which has shaped, religious fear patterns. It talks directly about that in the book. It does say that the Lyrans learned from this mistake and have evolved since then. No longer are they engaging in this destructive interference. But
Maybe that was like a learning moment for them that helped them ascend from the 3D.
That's how it's described.
Okay.
That was their takeaway from it. But that happened about 300,000 years ago. So some of these surviving Lemurians made their way to other parts of the Earth, reproduced with other early humans, carried on that hybrid DNA about 250,000 years ago. So 50,000 years later, there was a second evolutionary attempt, and that was Atlantis. So it does say that ETs, or non-human intelligence, gifted technology to the Atlanteans to reverse engineer, but they didn't directly interact with them like they did with the Lemurians.
Okay, so no more DNA manipulation.
Not at that point. No,
Okay.
It seems like what happened was Atlantis formed from these, hybridized Lemurians that survived and carried on that increased sentience in human this human capacity for sentience, and were able to create a advanced, at least technologically advanced, civilization in a different continent on a different part of the world. But they had that sentience in them already from the Lyran DNA. They also had, gifted technologies that either crashed or dropped, or they had these realizations of how things work because they had capacity, right? They had a higher level of sentience than humans before that. So they were able to create a technologically advanced civilization. It does say that Atlantis, it was a continent in the Atlantic Ocean. It had a north and a south. The north side were the ones that were focused on technology, and then those in the south became more spiritually focused, looked more inward rather than to technology for their purpose.
You know what that sounds like?
The Dark Crystal.
It sounds like our childhood. Yeah, we just watched that recently with our daughters, and so it's like fresh on my mind. It sounds very much like that.
It does.
And that's probably like might have been where he got that from.
It very well could be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of a classic idea, or there's these two different archetypes focused on different things. And Atlantis eventually was destroyed by some type of cataclysm. It sounds like it was more natural than intervention by ETs, but the North and the South's inability to unify or influence each other definitely contributed to their fall. So this event probably happened, and their lack of unity with one another probably made it to where they couldn't rebuild, or they were just completely wiped out.
Oh, that sounds like a history repeating itself kind of lesson too. Like the North became so reliant on technology that they couldn't recover once there was something that kind of impacted the technology, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But then I guess the South was just so focused on the spiritual side that they also couldn't. It's like the forgetting of how to do basic things.
Well, they thought that they were better than those in the North because they were choosing the spiritual path, but they weren't doing anything to kind of like bridge the distance between the two. But it does seem that the technology focus ultimately collapsed the civilization. That led to some type of environmental catastrophe. I don't know if it was an asteroid or something like that. It's described as something like that without getting too specific. But the split between the two, mirrored this deep societal divide between this technological over-reliance and spiritual purity. And I think we carry that on today as well, where there is this kind of like divide, between like science and religion.
Yeah. Again, this like polarized polarity, I guess, still. But like maybe we carry it on again, like we're just like attaching more trauma onto ourselves and carrying that through the
Right.
generations. It just like for like I guess it just kind of like helps mold the next iteration of humanity's history.
100%. And it's these traumatic events that are the catalyst for growth. Like we don't grow in this dense of an environment without them. So they make new scenarios and new experiences possible. So that takes us to about 250,000 years ago when Atlantis collapsed. And then since then, up until, recorded history about 10,000, 15,000 years ago, there was a lot of extraterrestrial involvement in human evolution, but it was done in different regions. So keep in mind, like Atlantis was the advanced civilization that's talked about in the book, but that wasn't like it was the only humans that were alive, because there had been this fairly long period of time between the Lemurians and the Atlanteans, and that hybridized DNA continued to spread throughout the world. There was already hominids throughout the world at that point because hominids had been around for millions of years. They just hadn't been genetically modified at that point until that initial Lyran DNA got to them. But post Atlantis, there's these 7 different ET root races, Lyrans being one of them, Pleiadians, Sirians, Orions, Arcturians, Cassiopeians, and Antarians, that contributed genetic material and energetic influences not only to human consciousness, but also Earth's ecosystem. And in many cases, they were crossbreeding with humans. Each one of them, it sounds like, picked like a different region in different time periods. But the book says that their, you know, direct reproducing with humans led to the beginnings of the different races that we see on Earth today. So we all started off as the same thing, as this hominid, but then in different parts of the world, they had more DNA from a specific ET race.
Okay, this makes me think of several things now. So, just a week ago or so, I was reading the Essential Reiki book, which is like from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And in the introduction, I even like sent you the screenshot because I knew you were going to love it. She talks about, so this is in the 90s. It's like an obscure little book that there's like, I don't know who reads it or how many or whatever. If you're into Reiki, I guess you do. But in her introduction, she talks about channeled material that she discovered that talks similarly to what you just said. And so in my mind, I always love it when very separate sources kind of say the same thing and corroborate it. It just makes it feel a little bit more plausible because I mean, this is pretty far out there. So when you hear several sources talking about it, it just feels more plausible. It's like, oh, there's lots of different groups saying a similar thing that have no contact with each other. So that sounds good. Um, and then the second thing is when you're talking about all these races, I mean, it's just like it feels like a classic religious story that we read about of gods, plural, coming down and like having families with humans. I mean, that story is in so many different religions and so many like cultural histories around the world. It's not just in one location or something. So that makes sense when you're saying that they did it around the world because all of these different cultures and religions have these types of stories of this intermingling with the gods, and it's just that's how it came out because that's what their vernacular was, or that's like how they thought at the time was gods coming down and creating demigods, right?
Right. And I think in many cases, the ETs presented themselves as gods. So, I mean, I mean, I think why some,
Because these are still like 3D, kind of like the
they're
Lyrans.
physical.
Like
Yeah. They're in
like
physical form.
they're in a similar dimension,
Yeah.
so they have similar like experiences
Yeah.
that we're having.
They're not necessarily all third dimensional, but they're all relatively, it's all still physical. So,
But they have the capacity to be, I guess you always have the capacity to be deceptive, but they chose to be maybe a little deceptive and saying that they're gods.
and I think it was different things happened at different times with different groups. I mean, I think they all had all the different ones interacted with us, and it only mentions these 7, but it says that there were more too. I mean, apparently once the Lyrans kind of broke the seal by manipulating humans, you know, tens of thousands of years later, like everybody in this part of the galaxy was like, oh, I want to come check out these humans because they're more like us now because they have, advanced DNA that makes them more sentient, that makes them more interesting, right? So I think we got visited quite a bit post Lemuria and post Atlantis because they became interested in us, and many of them came and stayed for long periods of time. It says that the races that visited the Egyptians stayed with them for thousands of years, versus the I think it was the Antarians came to Africa and stayed for a very short period of time, and the Pleiadians were in different places, but one of them was in northern Europe, and they stayed for hundreds of years, if not 1,000 years. So they would come and live here and breed with humans, and more mixing of the genetics and changing of the human DNA. And we're kind of the result of all of that today.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about this. This is like a sordid past kind of thing.
It's definitely a hidden past. It's something that we don't know anything about. But yeah, the major human races were shaped by this direct ET crossbreeding. Mentioned the Nordic Pleiadians and the Caucasians, the Zetas, and that became mixed with the people that lived in Asia, and then Syrians and Pleiadians mixed with those that lived in the Indian subcontinent. And then, that was tens of thousands of or 100,000 years ago. So, I mean, a lot's changed since then. There's been a lot of like intermingling of all of these. But the point was that they did come down to certain groups, and that formed the basis for many of their religious traditions. So they, like a lot of the different traditions, are similar in the fact that like these star beings came down to Earth and, reproduced with the humans, but they're also kind of different because they were visited by different groups at different times.
And that influenced the culture and
exactly. And the belief system, like how they presented themselves, like whether they did present themselves as gods or they just presented themselves as like advanced beings, like that influenced the belief system. And cultural influences. And it talks a bit about that in the book, like how these, like the cultural aspect that each one of these ET races brought to that specific region and group of people is still can be seen today in just kind of like cultural differences that we see between people in different parts of the world. There's still the mark.
Yeah, because I'm sure that like with these visitations, there was a discussion of like what our purpose is on here. So was it a nurturing experience or was it a dominance experience? And maybe there was a bit of both in all the different areas, whether they were a dominant group that came down or they were one that was here from like a nurturing, wanting to like help us become what we are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think there's kind of all of the above. And also, we're talking like kind of macro, like culturally what they brought, but also like the way that they're presented is, the ones that come down to Earth are individuals as well. So, I mean, they're going to vary in, who they are and what they're all about, just like we do as humans. So, it's hard to lump everybody all in one category. But that does bring us to a ET group that had not previously visited Earth until around, I think it was around like 10,000 years ago. And that's the Anunnaki. And they're presented as kind of this more adversarial ET group. Like they came here with an agenda. So what they came for was looking to take natural resources from Earth and then take them back to their planet. They found humans here and they wanted to use them to help them mine those natural resources.
Oh my gosh. So exploitation is a galactic problem.
There's always the dark, right?
Right. That's
There's
true.
always some type of adversary or some opposing force that has their own agenda that maybe not in the best interest of us. So they use genetic injections, psychological reinforcement to engineer obedience. And that's where this mark of obeying really came into play.
Okay. So this time it wasn't like the trauma caused it, but there was another round of
It was a new type
manipulation.
of trauma,
Right.
a new traumatic event. And interestingly, they came to the Middle East region, which is where several world religions that exist today started out, which are very much about obedience.
Right.
So that was the Anunnaki. They infused DNA to create fear of God, which did seed the template for those early religious control systems that we still experience today in some of the major religions.
Yeah, this like fills in kind of some of the blanks because for where that part happened, because in some religions, or like when you look back at some texts, there is it a benevolent God, or is it it's benevolent and fearful, and it's these two, so you can see where the fearful or where the
like these religions
jealous
kind of
God comes from.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And the belief system would be influenced by what type of non-humans they interacted with, what their experience was
Yeah,
like
but this
with them.
specifically like one where this is where the fear of God like really come. Like there
This
was
is
some
the one where it
before, but this
started.
one is like
This
it's
is
like
where it
really
started.
reinforced
Yeah,
here.
right, because they came here with an agenda, and that's how they maintain control over humans. Was
Okay,
by
so how long
introducing
were
this
they
fear of
here?
God.
Does it say that?
They were here for a while, several thousand years, I think, and then they left.
And then they just got what they wanted. We
They
have
got
no
what they
idea what
wanted
it
and
is,
left.
but there
And
was
then
something
the
here.
traumatic, event was still marked on our DNA and part of it's more recent in our history too. So it has more influence on belief systems that we still have today.
Well, now I want to know what they came here for. I guess
I
maybe
think
that'll
gold.
come out another
I think
thing.
they came to mine gold.
Oh, okay. Did it say gold?
I know that's the legend. I can't remember if it said that specifically in the book. It definitely said they came here to mine.
Oh, but you've heard about it as a legend that gold
The
was.
legend is they came to mine gold.
Okay.
I don't recall if it was mentioned in the book specifically. Mining was.
Right.
And they came here to have us, and they had us do the work. So that's one adversarial group. And another one mentioned in the book, and it doesn't sound like they ever reproduced with humans, but they've definitely come here and influenced humans, and that's the reptilians. They did create dinosaurs, and they have instigated many. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I mean, that just like makes so much sense. Yeah.
The reptilians
created dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And they have instigated many human conflicts as well. So because think like reptilian brain, like fight or flight.
Yeah, I mean that's like in our modern conversation, reptilian brain, like all kinds of things. That's like It makes me think of like an archaic thing that we're kind of evolving out of.
Yep.
Right. But it was a group that came here. I guess an old one, because if it was the dinosaur time, then it was like they
Oh
kind of
yeah, they've been
seeded
around
some
for a long
things.
time.
But then
Yep.
they came back. So they did the dinosaur thing, but then they came back after the Arcturians.
I don't think they ever left.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I think
It's just, oh, right. It's
they're
an
still around.
adversarial group that's just
It's
still
just
around.
another adversarial group.
Okay.
But I don't think that they've ever reproduced with humans. I don't think they can, like the other, because they're not as similar.
I hope not. I don't want to think what a dinosaur human hybrid would look like.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of lore out there on the internet, but Quan Yin doesn't go into that. It's like she says that they are their own thing. They're not humans, but we do have some shared DNA going way back because they have Pleiadian DNA and some others, from neighboring star systems. So we're not completely disconnected. I mean, we're all part of Source, right? And maybe that's an important point, is that Quan Yin consistently reframes these adversarial ET groups and their acts as part of a soul chosen curriculum for polarity. So like their souls signed up for that experience. We signed up for an experience for them to be our adversaries. We're all just experiencing experiences. And you can't have light without the dark.
Yeah, and that makes me think of unconditional, right? The universe is unconditional.
Yeah.
Like it's got room for all experiences, whether we assign good or bad or what to it, it still is open for all experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And Quan Yin does say that we have to stop, especially to get to, higher up on the collective human ascension path. We need to let go of this idea of bad versus good and us versus them and see more from a multi-dimensional vibrational frequency level. So sure, yeah, like very polarized thinking, fear-based thinking, lower vibration. And love is the highest vibration. So, I mean, they are definitely experiencing lower, like these physical adversarial beings are experiencing lower levels of dimensional frequency, but that's part of their path.
Mm-hmm.
And we apparently learn through experiencing them as adversaries. It does seem like it matters less the higher you go. Like you don't really, like there's not as much polarity.
Yeah, wasn't it? We were reading something or talking about something where they said like in all dimensions you have the capacity to do all of these things, but you just choose, because you have free will. You choose love. You choose the higher vibrational experience. You just don't even want to mess with the other stuff.
That's right.
As you go up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have no desire to, because you're vibrating at
it just doesn't make any sense anymore. It's not that you can't do it. It's like it doesn't make any sense.
Right. It's just much less polarized. Like you don't need that density. There's not that density of energy that is polarity. Like you're ascending towards love the higher up you go vibrationally.
Okay, so this is all who we are, right? This is our story of who we are.
Yep.
Is there more, or does that bring us to now?
There's a little more.
Okay.
There's
so
we're
now at like what did you say, like 10,000 years ago?
Like the beginning of written history.
Okay.
Like that's when the Anunnaki came, because the Sumerians wrote about them, and they're the oldest written history, and they were the gods of the Sumerians who were in the ancient Middle East, where Iran, Iraq, Israel are today. Like that's where the Sumerians were. And that was their gods. In fact, like the Hebrew religion, came from those that lived in that area. Okay, so that's kind of takes us to the beginning of written history, and then they fast forward a little bit to modern day, or at least 20th century, and said there is a modern era of ET influence, because it does seem like at the beginning of written history, most of these ET groups left the planet, right? Especially when, after the Anunnaki came and humans started writing things down, there was very much this hierarchy, fear of God. Like all of these systems kind of came out of the Anunnaki visitation that formed a lot of the existing structures that we see today. But fast forward to the 20th century. Since the 1930s, 1940s, there have been accidental crashes by technologically advanced beings, but they aren't from these 7 star systems. It's something else.
What? Okay.
Okay, so the crashes from like the 30s and 40s, like Roswell crashes, those were these accidental crashes by advanced parallel Earth humans.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have my brain has to like make space for this now. So parallel Earth.
Like from a different timeline.
Okay. So this is the whole like time is irrelevant. It's collapsing in on itself kind of thing. So there's another Earth human experience happening at the same time as this one, and now that one is crossing into our timeline. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep. So these parallel Earth humans, often mislabeled as grays, like the grays from Zeta Reticuli, because
that's what we
look
are
similar.
in an alternative timeline.
Yes. Yeah, where we look like that in an alternate timeline.
Okay.
Yeah, like the small bodies, the big head, the big eyes.
I guess a whole like
no
episode
hair.
could be towards like what is like how did we turn into that?
Well, technology led to the collapse of their civilization. Like they destroyed their planet, Earth.
Okay, so they got advanced enough to have this technology to jump timelines, but then they collapsed as well.
I think they collapsed first, or at least their ability to live on the planet collapsed. They destroyed it. Technology destroyed their planet.
Okay.
It also eventually destroyed their ability to reproduce.
Okay.
And this starts to lead to like why they look the way that they look. If they really were like just humans that were on a parallel Earth timeline. So they lost the ability to reproduce eventually after destroying their planet with the technology that they had created. So they still had the technology, that they already had. They came to our timeline for genetic material.
Oh, so they're like, we screwed up and we're going to come and try to start over by hijacking some of your genetic material.
Exactly.
Starting over.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Because we're the same genetically. Like they're just a parallel
so
version.
if they destroyed their Earth, are they living off Earth now? And there's like some sort of like space lab that did it say anything about that?
It didn't say anything about that in the book.
Maybe I'm getting too fixated on this like parallel world now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we just got to step back.
I mean, the idea in my head, I don't remember how it got there, but it's basically like they still can live on this planet. It's just like the surface of the planet is uninhabitable.
Okay.
So maybe they live underground.
Okay. It's like a sci-fi story.
Yeah, it'd be like us going to Mars. It's like an uninhabitable planet, but they can probably like build structures or like go underground so that they don't get,
So it's like a subsistence kind of thing. Like they can still survive on it. It's just not thrive.
I don't think it has an atmosphere anymore.
Oh.
So I mean, I don't think they can live. I think it's like that type of thing where if it does have an atmosphere, it's like poisonous to them. So they probably have to live like underground, probably why their eyes are bigger. They have to live indoors all the time because there's no natural environment to go into that's survivable.
Okay.
I think that's the gist.
Okay. So they're coming in starting in the 60s.
30s.
Starting in the 30s, they start showing up, start crashing because they're trying to get this genetic material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it says the early crashes were accidental. But they did start coming in around that time to get human from our timeline, genetic material. But in so doing, crashing their technologically advanced crafts, that did a byproduct of that, of us humans recovering that technology and reverse engineering it, introduce the knowledge for nuclear power, quantum technologies through these reverse engineering.
Oh, and that's where Quan Yin is saying there's like a direct connection between those things.
Yeah, humans from our timeline in the 1930s, 40s, and later recovered those crafts, reverse engineered them, and that led to the biggest technological breakthroughs in the 20th century. And that's why we skyrocketed forward in technological advancement in the 20th century, whereas, the 1,000 years preceding, it was very gradual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just like this major leap forward. It's a result of recovering and reverse engineering this advanced technology from a parallel timeline.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to think of that as like a gift that they gave us. Like, we're taking your DNA because we screwed up, but here's this gift of like giving you this technology that hopefully they're giving us the technology that would help us avoid the same.
I don't think it was gifted per se,
Oh,
or at least not at first.
okay. They really did
I
just
think
crash
it really
it.
crashed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it really did. Because I mean, they were here. Their race was dying. They needed genetic material. We have that genetic material because we are them. But there could be some of that gifting as well. Because in the case of nuclear technology, I think that one was specifically given to test whether or not humans could, in our timeline, wield the power responsibly, which
Mm-hmm.
became like the biggest narrative of the second half of the 20th century.
Yeah, that question still is unanswered.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've made it a few decades, but that could all come crashing down at any time, right?
Right.
Um, so they did come to create a new hybrid species to save their race. Those hybridization efforts continue into the present, and that is the explanation behind the alien abduction phenomena. Like they would abduct people or take people either physically or put thoughts into their heads that they had been abducted, but they would also take genetic material from them.
Okay, so that's still continuing. So they haven't solved their problem yet because they're still taking the genetic material.
Now, outside of the book, I have heard that ended around the turn of the century, at the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century. And I think Bashar has said that because Bashar describes himself as a hybrid human gray from the future.
Oh, okay. That's right.
That's why he wants to help humanity, because he's so appreciative that
Okay,
humans
so
from
they
this
made it
timeline.
through. So we kind of know through him that it was successful, that they were able to like recover, and now the gifting of knowledge or just of helping
Right.
is happening. Now that they're out of their like, emergency room situation.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So his group, the Sasani, are future hybrids, and they're currently involved in channeling and teaching and physically visiting humans to help us raise our consciousness.
Gotcha. But that's not Quan Yin. Quan Yin is a different ascended master.
Quan Yin is an ascended master who's in like the highest dimension still within this universe.
Okay.
Non-physical.
Got it.
Yep. There are, and so it's not just them. Like they're one group that's giving us these messages, but Arcturians, Pleiadians, Syrians are also identified as some of the most active teachers that come through with the channeling and the visitation.
So I don't know. I mean, you and I, of course, we've just kind of had this like spiritual awakening, and it just seems like now there's just a lot of this material happening. Maybe it was happening a lot and we just weren't aware of it, but it just seems like there's a lot more just volume of channeling or this type of interaction happening now. Is that right? Like, are they all coming more frequently? Are we hitting like another um kind of, I wouldn't say renaissance, but like another like interconnected moment with the
Yes.
universe?
Yes. Yes. And it is increasing because the channelings really started happening on a wide scale in the late 20th century. It also has something to do with humanity's level of consciousness where they could interact with a non-human intelligence and receive the message of, who they are, why they're helping us, and not just immediately assume it was an angel or a demon. Like there's another category, a whole nother category out there
Mm.
of like, we're all part of source, including them. We're all interconnected in this way. We're all consciousnesses that are ascending and descending so source can have experience and we're part of that source. But humanity's trajectory at this point in time is on an ascension path to the fifth dimension. They're coming in more now because we are slowly awakening to how the nature of how things actually are. And we're more open to these things. It did say that the Earth itself shifted from the third to the fourth dimension in 2012, enabling many humans. And it describes the fourth dimension as like this transitory one between the third and the fifth. So it's kind of an in between one. So the Earth is now vibrating at that frequency, enabling many humans already are in the fourth dimension. And the more of us that are in the fourth dimension, the closer that we get to the fifth, is how
And
it presents
probably
it.
the more easy it is for
The
us
more
to
easy it is to
communicate.
communicate, the more open we are to communication,
Hmm.
the more we leave behind what no longer serves us as far as like limiting beliefs in ourselves and humanity and our place in the universe. Like we've gone through all, like collectively, we've gone through all these different cycles to get to this point. I think that's why um, we're to the level of consciousness where we can really interact more. And it does say, I mean, I've heard Bashar say this, that that's when face-to-face ET contact will happen, when humanity is vibrating at collectively at a high enough frequency. The collective vibration is high enough that we're ready for that experience.
Hmm.
Because it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're coming from a fear-based perspective and something like that happens, it's not like you're going to go to love and light.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So to kind of begin to wrap this up, the kind of getting back to the core theme of human life, human experience on Earth is this exploration of emotions and creativity. And Quan Yin emphasizes that emotional range and creative expression are unique to physicality, being in like the third dimension. But now that we've collectively experienced this, Earth is shifting upwards, and the Earth experiment concludes when humanity completes, an ascension shift to the fifth dimension.
What do you mean concludes?
I don't think it's that
Like
the
you just
Earth
close up
just,
shop and you're like, we're good. We learned what we're going to learn.
yeah, I
Or
mean,
just like in maybe a new phase,
I think it's a new
a
phase.
different experiment
Yeah, it doesn't talk anything
begins.
about the Earth being destroyed or anything like that. And it's not a fear based thing, it's just an inevitability. The question is just like,
Yeah, maybe it's like a movement from like adolescence into the next mature state or something.
I think it is, yeah. And maybe this is what a lot of the apocalyptic visions from different religious texts were really about, is like the new Earth.
Right. It's not like we're going to like our spirits are going to like go up into the heavens or something, but it's just like a new, yeah, like the next phase of this experience is going to happen. I love that. I've always
Exactly.
felt that way. Like the earth is amazing. Why would we ever think that like this is like something that I mean, I know that there's a lot of like we talk about polarity, and there's a lot of dark to see the light, but then you get to see the light, and you're like, when you see that, you're like, this experience is amazing. Why would I ever think that this is like the worst? It's just getting better.
Exactly. Yeah. And it says that,
Even though, I mean, when I say it's just getting better, I feel like I'm saying that from like the perspective of like my position here. I know that there's like a lot of really difficult experiences happening on this planet now, but it seems like we are all collectively waking up and choosing, like, this is not what we want anymore. Like, this earth is too amazing, and this experience is too amazing to have that experience happening anymore.
right.
And that's where we're collectively choosing a new path, which brings into the new earth.
We are, but well, there will always be a spectrum. Like there's many on Earth that are now in the fourth dimension. There's many that are still in the third dimension. I don't think any have ascended to the fifth dimension, but it does say of the beings that have ascended to the fifth dimension, like maybe some of the Pleiadians or Arcturians, they often return to assist others that are remaining in the lower dimensions. So those of us that, are shifting to the fourth on our way to the fifth have the opportunity to put out these higher level vibrations, which can eventually help bring those in the third dimension higher.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like it's more of an inevitability, but also keep in mind that we all live many lifetimes. We've all been here before. We've lived past lifetimes in other star systems. So Quan Yin does say that the ascension will begin to happen in our lifetime here and now on Earth, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's also worth just kind of bringing it back to there's multiple timelines, there's everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah, it's
there's
not
all
black
these
and
things
white.
that we can't even fathom. So I think that's really what Quan Yin's trying to do here is bring it down into something that we can try to grasp. And I think it's one of the most complete pictures I've found to kind of answer these questions it's the one that resonates the most with me right now, as far as like an explanation of like who we are, why we're here, where we're going. It just kind of seems to check all those boxes for me in just a way that's like, yeah, I could see that. I could see that being a pretty good representation of how it is. Now, how is it actually? Way beyond our comprehension, right?
Right. Yeah, like we've expanded our color box by like 2 colors. We're
Exactly.
still like in the small Crayola box,
Right.
not the big one.
And we don't have to know everything. Like we can't. We're limited
Right.
at this vibrational
That's
frequency.
probably one of these experiences is like being okay with not knowing. That's what I say all the time to our girls. Like when they ask all these questions that I don't know, I'm like, I don't know. And it's okay that we don't know. You don't have to know everything in order to believe that it's happening or to like see it, experience it.
Get comfortable with that.
Yeah. That's a lesson I'm still learning.
So there you go. Who we are, why we're here, where this is all going. That's what Quan Yin has to say on it.
That was good. I like it. It like a lot. My favorite thing, or one thing that I just like love when reading channeled material, is like it's all this like stuff that could be so difficult to understand, and it could get really complex really fast. But it's like all this channeled material is just in a format that just makes it so easy for us to digest.
You can wrap your brain around it.
Yeah, like they know, okay, this is the sandbox that we can start playing with, and this is the language that we can use to make it accessible to all. There's no gatekeeping, which I love about it.
Right.
Well, cool. Well, thanks, Brian. This was illuminating.
Awesome.
Okay, see you next time.